Hello everybody, Muttley here, and welcome to my highlights from the opening round of the British GT eSports series. I'm in lobby 4 out of a whopping 9 in total for this race, and as you can now see, I'm starting second, alongside the leader who had a very good first stage of the start. The second stage I kind of pulled it back a bit, that will just be due to different gear lengths. Go for the cut back into turn 1, try and get alongside, maybe get the nose up the inside as we enter the S's, but he is indeed clear, so I swap into my preferred driving view. I do tend to use cockpit view for this car, just using the third person at the start to make sure I can be better aware of my surroundings. Have a quick look in the mirror now, and yeah, there's quite a lot going on back there, but fortunately myself and the leader have managed to check out a little bit already. Going around the bus stop then for the first time. The bus stop is going to come up quite a bit in this video. Definitely keep your eyes on the video whenever I approach that area of the track. This area of the track is doing quite well for me, getting a very good line up the inside of the Bentley, which turns into the outside for this left-hander. Not really getting the run you might expect being on the outside line though. I do go for the dive in towards the toe, but being on the inside here is again, I just don't seem to quite be in the right position. The Bentley's always going to get a better exit on the outside line there, and that Bentley was very quick out of the corners in general, so I wasn't unfortunately able to take the lead. Right, on to lap 4 then, and the top 2 that I mentioned checking out has now sort of turned into a top 3. I put myself at risk of dropping to the back of this top 3, making a mistake, nearly running into the back of Bentley. Fortunately managing to dive out the way, although that does put me under some serious pressure from the BMW behind, like I mentioned at the start of that sentence. Definitely at risk of dropping to the back of this trio. So now I'm just all about focusing on defending. You can already see the gap that's grown to the Bentley in the last couple of corners. They've got BMW up my inside. I try and give them as much room as I can. I feel a little bit of contact there, but I have the preferred line on the exit, so fortunately I don't have to defend too hard into the next corner. And now things should settle down for a little bit. I'm under no immediate threat. On to lap 6 then, and we're going into that pesky bus stop that I mentioned at the start. A very, very bad line from me. They're all kinds of sideways, completely getting the corner wrong. And the BMW has a look around my outside initially into the long right-hander, but fortunately for me, doesn't quite manage to pull it off, and I don't have to defend too hard into the left-hander either. He's not quite there just yet, but I have a feeling he certainly will be. You can see the pace difference between us two and the leader. He has completely gone. I mean, talk about bad lines from me, because that was rubbish through the toe as well. And now the BMW is going to have one hell of a run on us. And when I say the BMW, I'm talking about the other guy. I do know that I'm driving a BMW as well. Going defensive into the toe there though from the other BMW, and I don't really get a very good exit, and he goes to the inside, and I realised a little bit too late. If I just stayed to the left, he would have had to try and go around the outside of me, but he did manage to force his way to the inside, and by forcing his way to the inside, he's managed to pretty much take the position off me. I kind of try and fight back around the outside of the penultimate corner. It's not really going to work. I kind of have the inside again. I probably should have just dived into the pits there, because fighting has clearly lost us a lot of time. I mean, look in the mirror. There's a lot of cars now approaching, and we had quite a big gap earlier on. On to lap 9 then, and we finally start to come up to some GT4 traffic. This is a multi-class series, and you can see, maybe can you see? You can just about see, well I know what's going to happen anyway, so I'll just tell you, that the GT4s are severely going to hinder, I think, the leader initially, but also that BMW that's now on my right hand side. But I can't really do anything about it because there's a GT4 there. I go for the dive up the inside of the pair of them, but the GT4 goes very well into the corner, and I don't even get past him, let alone the other BMW, so I have to check out and slot in behind. So yeah, that 3 wide really didn't work. I try and stick my nose up the inside there into the... Is that the toe or the heel? I did learn them a minute ago. They're the only 2 corner names that I know along with the bus stop, apart from like turn 1 or the last turn. That's how I describe things. Anyway, on to the next lap then, and the leader has had some more issues with the GT4. As you can see, losing a lot of time. I tend to say as you can see quite a lot. I should really stop doing that. But anyway, fortunately I managed to get past the leader, which does, well, the previous leader. I don't get into the lead by passing him, but I managed to get past him and the GT4 that he had an issue with before we get to the first corner. So now it's important to note that there's a GT4 up ahead that's also just come out of the pits, and that's hindered the new leader, the other BMW. Am I confusing you yet? I'm certainly confusing myself. I mean, and just because of that GT4 hindering the new leader, look at the amount of... Oh, I can't bear to watch. Sorry, I was trying... That was such a terrible mistake from me. I got such a good run, and I tried to move to the inside. I wasn't really going for the move. I was just trying to increase my visibility, maybe put a bit of pressure on, maybe force me into a mistake. And I just blindsided myself. I completely put myself in a position where I couldn't see my braking point. I completely missed my braking point. I smacked into the side of the leader. I put him in the wall. I don't think you could see what happened behind me. I absolutely put him in the wall. I completely ended his race. His car was totaled. And I feel genuinely terrible because I don't like making mistakes like that. I don't mind making mistakes like that if I hinder myself, but when you're taking someone else out, it's horrific. A couple of laps later and we're coming into the pits, but I'm going to carry on talking about that terrible mistake. You might want to go back and watch it a couple of times to see how bad it was. That's the sort of thing I'd do if I was watching. But yeah, I'm so sorry to the guy that I took out. I messaged him, I spoke to him. Fortunately, he was very kind of blasé in a way. It was just very much at the approach of, you know, that's racing, these things happen, mistakes are made, and fortunately, like I said, he took it well. But yeah, unfortunately for me, that's not even the last mistake I'm going to make into the bus stop in this video. Right, back to the current action then, and coming out of the pits, I've been jumped by an Aston that we haven't seen before in this race, so he's done well to jump up a few positions in the pit phases. I do manage to stay in front of one of, if not both of the McLarens. I don't know which is which. Oh, there's a BMW coming up the pits. We've managed to jump him as well. So somehow I'm still in third. I did lose a lot of time myself in that incident. It feels bad saying that because I didn't lose as much as the other guy, but I did lose a lot of time myself, and I'm somehow still up in third. So I'm not quite sure how that's happened. But I was just about to mention about two McLarens. Like, I've taken the names over players off because I find it... I don't like to have it on. I know it's handy to have on so you can tell who's who, but anyway, I like to not have it on. I think it just makes it a little bit more immersive. I try to run with minimal HUD, like in Project Cars and that. I just have it completely off. But yeah, I've been numbing an R-ring for a while, and I've decided to take that off, and I realise I'm rambling again. But anyway, yeah, the two McLarens are behind me, no idea which one's which. Was the short version of that. You've just watched me overtake a couple of GT4 cars, and hopefully try and stick to the back of this Aston. So, yeah, hopefully staying nice and close, put the pressure on, and he does indeed make a little bit of a mistake. So he gets to the inside, and he puts the squeeze on massively on the run down to turn 1. I mean, look at that. I've just about got a car's width this side of the wall. I'll brake nice and late if I can into turn 1. There's a little bit of door contact, but, you know, that's racing, isn't it? And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get past, so I would settle back into P3 for the time being as we go on to carry on our penultimate lap. And it is worth noting that although it says lap 17 of 19, lap 18 is the final racing lap. So when we finish lap 18, that's the end of the race. It's done like that for the GT4s, so they don't encounter AI-controlled GT3 cars. Anyway, here we are then, on to the final lap of the race, lap 18. And you can see, after the move didn't pay off, I haven't managed to stick with the car ahead, and I'm very much more focused on defending from the car behind. There's another BMW, a white one this time, very much filling my mirrors. Unfortunately, this is where my next mistake comes into the bus stop. In a bit hot, just not getting the line right, not slowing down enough, and I ended up tagging the curb and sliding wide, and then having to come back across the grass, and I still hadn't scrubbed off enough speed, so I went wide on the rejoin. I was fortunate not to take anyone out on the rejoin, actually, because I wasn't really paying attention to what sort of traffic there was. I did manage to just about join ahead of, like I said, one of the McLarens, not sure which is which. The other one's now behind me, so that's fun. Yeah, so yeah, terrible mistake there at the end of the race. And like I said, that's at least 3 significant mistakes I've made in the bus stop this race. And I expect better from myself, that's simply not good enough. So, heading into the final sector now of the final lap, and I'm currently in 5th place. And I mean, if you look in my mirror, I'm more worried about defending from that McLaren than I am attacking the McLaren in front, and it's unusual for things to happen in the last couple of corners anyway, but I mean, that McLaren just looks worryingly big, and especially when my confidence is so low right now at this point in the race. I've just made an absolute howler. I've had a pretty bad race in general, and I just please try and come on. Yes, there we go, out the final corner, and then you can relax, a straight line to the line, and that would be it for the end of this race. And those are the results now on your screen. As you can tell, I did finish 5th. Moving on to race 2 then, and there's no reverse grid or anything, you just start where you finished in that first race, so I will be starting 5th on the grid. And this time I'm going to be alongside one of the McLarens. And we already, I don't know if I mentioned it actually, but the McLarens, very good around the corners, not so great down the straights, so I do manage to beat him off the line, and the row behind me had a very good run as well. And as you can see there on the left hand side, there's another BMW. It's almost attacking me as we go up the S's, but I think he was slightly side by side with one of the McLarens back there as well. And as and now all of a sudden we're 3 corners in, and just look at the spaces either side of me. I'm on my own again. Once again swapping from third person into my cockpit, and something weird happened this race with the bus stop. I kept getting it right. I don't think I made any major errors. All of a sudden it was a case of, okay, I can do this now. Which was very, very weird. But this is quite a subdued race in general. We're jumping all the way onto lap 7 now because nothing has happened. I'm coming up to the back of some cars. They were starting to feel like I was being held up a little bit, so I dived into the pits, and I did call it beforehand because there was some cars around me. And I must admit, I wasn't too impressed that the 2 cars in front of me decided to cut in to join me in the pits, because the ruling is you have to stay within the track markings for the pit entry, and neither of them did. Fortunately, the Forza gods were on my side. As we come to the exit now, you can see that my pit crew's done a fantastic job and jumped me ahead of the Aston. We've just about managed to exit the pits well clear of... Just about and well clear aren't 2 phrases that go together. We're well clear of the GT4 traffic is what I'm trying to say. And surprisingly, the 3 of us, despite entering the pits very close together, came out relatively spread apart. Later that lap though, I make a move on the McLaren that's ahead of me. As much as that looks like a really good move, it was somewhat orchestrated because the guy, fair dues to the guy as well, the driver basically handed me that position after I'd called him out on cutting the pit entry. Felt bad about sort of gaining an advantage for doing that. And he's not gonna... It hasn't gone well for him. I'm not doing very well in my commentary either, but if you look in the mirror, you can see that after giving me 1 position, he's lost, I think, 2 more there going into the bus stop. I mean, what? I can't believe it. There's absolutely chaos going on into the bus stop, and it was nothing to do with me in this race. So that's a good thing. All the way on to lap 15 now. Yeah, like I said earlier, this second race has been very, very quiet. We finally caught up to some GT4 traffic. I managed to get past 2 of the ones that I can see just about between the 2 corners, doing the second one under braking into the heel. I think I'm getting that corner name correct, as I mentioned earlier. And now there's just 1 more in front of me that I can see, and we're closing up rather rapidly through the final sector, so we're going to go to the inside for the penultimate corner, smack a tyre out the way, clatter the curb, touch the grass, but somehow managed to get in front. I probably held the Audi up a little bit there, which is unfortunate, but that is part of the fun of multi-class racing. So that'd be the end of lap 15 then, and we're gonna... Are we gonna? There we go now. That cut came later than I was expecting. We'll jump right to the end of lap 17, because not a lot has been going on, like I said. You may notice that there's a different car behind me now, so there was clearly more going on behind me than there was for me. But yeah, that Merc behind, very, very quick in the straights, and he was doing a very good job of getting around the corners as well. So my sole focus towards the end of this race here was all about defending, trying to stay third. I started in 2nd place for the first race. I'd expect myself to be able to turn that into at least 1 podium. Obviously, I completely screwed myself out of it in the first race, but hopefully this race I can hold on. I mean, just look at that power. I've gone very, very defensive into turn 1. And then we're going to brake as hard as we can, as late as we can, try and do better than we did against the Aston when trying to overtake. And then what the hell is that? The leaders have pulled over. But look at the lap counter, it's still only lap 18. You can see how much I hesitated. I'm hesitating again, swapping out the views. the guy that the Merc that was trying to overtake me, he backed off as well. But the leaders have stopped a lap too early. This is the final lap. And I mean, I was just caught in such a state of confusion. It's just honestly one of the most bonkers things I've seen at an esports race in my esports racing career, because how can you just stop a lap early? And you know, I wasn't sure what the etiquette was. Does that mean we just all stop? But everybody else has carried on, I guess led by me. But there we go. I've come across the end of that lap, crossed the line, and I've taken the lobby victory. And now we go off the track and pull out the way of the GT4s and line up on the track. Like I mentioned earlier, we do this pulling off thing on the last lap to allow the GT4s to complete their race without being hindered by GT3 cars going round that are controlled by the AI. So here are the final classified standings of that race, and somehow I've won it out of absolutely nowhere. And the two leaders are classified, or what were the two leaders were classified a lap down on everybody else. So not the best ending for them. So here we are then. These are the results for everybody in the VPR team, with a full roster of 9 drivers across 3 teams, and that's how everybody did. I'm not going to display it like that every week, because it's a pain in the arse trying to crop it and piece it all together from the Torah website. I'm going to do something else. But anyway, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until the next one, goodbye.